Tonight's story begins with a mystery so unsettling that investigators still struggle to explain what happened behind the closed doors of a quiet suburban home, where nothing was supposed to go wrong and every sign of danger was hidden in plain sight. Before this case reached the national spotlight, it was just another quiet street, another family, another life that looked perfect from the outside. But as you're about to see, the truth behind what happened is far more disturbing than anyone expected. Stay with me until the end of this episode, because the final reveal completely changes how this case is understood. In fact, investigators themselves admitted that what they discovered in the last 48 hours of the timeline forced them to rewrite their entire theory. What you're about to hear is the complete breakdown of that timeline. Every step, every clue, every contradiction. And by the end, you'll notice something that nearly everyone misses the first time. It starts with a family who seemed ordinary. Smiling photos, stable jobs, predictable routines. But beneath that carefully curated image were tensions quietly building. Friends noticed small shifts, arguments whispered behind half-closed doors, late-night messages that didn't match with daytime behavior, and a sudden change in personality from the person at the center of it all. Despite these warning signs, no one imagined how quickly things were about to escalate. Days before the incident, neighbors reported hearing strange noises late at night. A door slamming, hurried footsteps, and what sounded like a single sharp cry cut short. When questioned later, each neighbor thought someone else would call for help, and no one reached out. That silence became one of the most haunting elements of the entire case. On the morning, everything changed. The victim's car was discovered, parked just slightly crooked in the driveway. Not enough to raise alarm, but enough that investigators later noted it as the first physical clue. Inside the house, nothing looked disturbed at first glance. The kitchen was clean, lights were off, curtains were drawn, and no signs of forced entry were visible. But as officers moved deeper inside, the atmosphere shifted. A single overturned glass on the counter, a faint chemical smell in the air, and a phone left on the floor as if dropped mid-conversation began painting a different picture. What truly set off alarm bells, though, was the missing item from the victim's bedroom. Something small, personal, and always kept close. The disappearance of that object immediately suggested someone else had been inside the home. Detectives pulled security footage from nearby streets and found a shadowy figure walking past the house at 3:12 a.m. The person wore dark clothing, moved with intention, and paused directly in front of the victim's yard for several seconds. Though the footage was grainy, the still frame showed the figure holding something that appeared to be a phone. Later analysis confirmed that a message had been sent to the victim at that exact time, a message they never opened. Even stranger cell phone tower data showed the victim's phone had pinged 2 miles away hours later, long after they were presumed to be in the house. This contradiction pushed detectives toward a new theory. The victim may have been removed from the home alive, then transported elsewhere. The real twist surfaced when investigators accessed deleted messages from the victim's device. Hidden between harmless conversations was a thread involving someone the victim feared yet couldn't fully cut off. The messages revealed subtle manipulation, unpredictable behavior, and a chilling escalation in tone over weeks. Despite this, the victim repeatedly tried to calm the situation, likely believing they could manage the danger themselves. In the days leading up to the disappearance, the messages became frantic. That person insisted they needed to talk, demanded to meet and said that something bad would happen if they didn't. A final message never answered, simply read, "You're leaving me no choice." From here, the timeline accelerates. Surveillance footage places that same individual near the victim's workplace, then near the home, then near the location where the victim's car was last tracked, traveling. When police finally located that car, it held the most crucial pieces of evidence: fibers, fingerprints, and a small item belonging to the victim placed in the back seat. What investigators couldn't understand yet was the motive. Why this person? Why this moment? Why this sudden eruption of violence after months of tension? The answer came from an unexpected source. A friend who finally stepped forward with a voicemail they had forgotten about, recorded 2 weeks before the disappearance. In that message, the victim's voice trembles as they describe something they recently discovered, something about the suspect that terrified them. The victim never explained fully in the voicemail, only saying, "If anything happens to me, check with them first. They won't let me walk away." That detail completely reframed the case. It meant the victim understood the danger but underestimated how fast it was escalating. As detectives continued digging, they uncovered a secret life. The suspect had been hiding financial problems, past restraining orders in another state, and evidence that they had followed the victim for months, tracking their movements with disturbing precision. What happens next is the part that investigators revealed only later. A piece of footage from a traffic camera that finally showed the suspect's vehicle following the victim's car on the night of the disappearance. That footage, timestamped just minutes before the victim's phone stopped transmitting, confirmed the final connection. The resolution of the case came after weeks of searching when investigators discovered a location tied to the suspect, an abandoned structure deep in a wooded area. Inside, they found the missing personal item from the victim's room, and conclusive evidence placing the suspect at the scene. What's chilling is that nearly every detail suggested meticulous planning. The suspect had rehearsed, prepared, and premeditated every step except one. A single overlooked clue left at the home, which was eventually used to tie the entire case back to them. As you reach the end of this story, here's the detail most people miss. The suspect tried to stage the scene to look like the victim had left voluntarily. However, a timestamp discrepancy on one of the victim's devices proved the suspect made a crucial mistake. That mistake not only cracked the case open, but ensured the victim's story would be heard, their timeline reconstructed, and justice served. If you watched through to this point, you now know the full picture and the truth behind why this case captivated the world. Nothing about this was random. Nothing about it was accidental. And the most haunting part is how close this case came to being unsolved, if not for one single overlooked clue.